I've seen your comments, and I know that some of you have been asking for the truth. You want to know exactly how it is, 100% honestly. I'm here to tell you the truth, and nothing but the truth. Don't you just love a dramatic intro? Yes, today I'm back for a video that you guys have been asking for in your thousands, crying out for in the streets. There's been protests for this video. Not so long ago, I posted a video answering some of the questions that you guys have been asking about what it's really like to live here in Sweden, and you guys went crazy for it. Ever since, I've been inundated with requests to do a part 2, so I hopped over onto my Instagram account recently and asked you guys to submit your questions for this video. And today, I'm here to answer them for you, 100% honestly, no holds barred. My first question comes from Eugenia, who asks me, do you ever get homesick, and if so, how do you manage it? And honestly, yes, I do get homesick sometimes. I guess most of us probably do, especially because half of the time that I've lived here in Sweden has been during the pandemic, and I've not been able to go back to England for over a year and a half now. And I've done other videos where I've talked about the things that I miss about living in England, but honestly, it's the small things that really catch you off guard. But of course, it's the people that I miss more than anything else, my friends and my family. It feels really strange not to be able to see them as often as I used to, but let's be honest, the pandemic isn't forever, we hope, and soon, maybe I'll be able to get back to seeing them a bit more frequently. But yes, to answer your question, I do get homesick, and the way that I try to handle that is to have regularly scheduled visits where I go back home, so I know in my calendar when I'm going to be there, when I'm going to see people, and I have that to look forward to. During the pandemic, I've tried to replace that with FaceTimes and Skypes as much as possible. If I know I'm going to speak to my friends frequently, it doesn't feel quite so bad. And we've all got a lot more creative during the pandemic, haven't we? There's been all sorts of quiz nights you can do online escape rooms. It's way easier to stay in touch. My next question comes from Sina, who asks me, hur går livet, which means, how is life? Thanks for asking, Sina. Life is good. It's been wild for a hot minute, but it finally feels like we're getting back to some kind of normality, and we're heading into summer here in Sweden, which is my favourite time of year, so I can't really complain. And I feel like living the pandemic in Sweden has offered its own unique take on the situation, because we obviously haven't had the same rules as most of the rest of the world. So what we've seen is quite unique to lots of other places, and my life hasn't really been that different. I've still been able to go to work sometimes. I've still been able to see colleagues. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, I'm just saying it means that it's not been quite so different for me, which I've appreciated. I've obviously also been trying to keep my contact with other people outside my little bubble to an absolute minimum. Almost Jonas asks me, what are some of the similarities that I've seen between Sweden and the UK? That's actually a really good question, and something I could make a whole nother video about sometime. But something that really sticks out to me immediately when I'm answering this question is that we both like the outside world and nature. Sure, we enjoy nature in different ways and we've got different hobbies, but that being said, your average family in Sweden and your average family in the UK like getting outside at the weekends, like spending time with the fresh air, in new scenery, working out or doing something fun. And then there's all the obvious stereotypes, like we both like to queue, we both have very unpredictable weather systems, and depending on who you ask, we both like to drink. But I think we'll save stereotypes for another video, right? My next question comes from Madza, who asks me, what is an English thing or concept that I really wish that the Swedes would adopt? And this is such a fun question. This is not something I'd ever really thought of before, but I've got just the answer for you. For me, it comes down to how we take our holiday from work. In England, we take our annual holiday entitlement and we spread it out. We scatter it across the year so that we always have something to look forward to. Like mini milestones. We know in February we're going away here. In March we're doing this with the family. But it's not really how it works here in Sweden. Yes, here in Sweden, the majority of people will take a little bit of time at Christmas, they'll take some time during spotlov, and apart from that, all of their holiday goes in one big chunk over the summer. And I'm not talking about spread out across the summer months, I'm talking about 3 or 4 weeks back to back. And whilst I should add that no Swedish employer has stopped me taking holiday the way that I used to in England since I've been here in Sweden, it's something that I think the Swedes could learn from us, and that's saying something because we don't have much people can learn from. But yes, I think it's quite fun to always have something to look forward to throughout the year. Even if you're not going anywhere, even if you're just staying at home, it's nice to have that milestone. You know, if you're getting stressed or you're getting worked up, it's only 3 more weeks till I've got some time off. It really helps to get you in the right mindset, I think. And then my next question is actually a jumble of questions that I got from a number of you related to job tips. And I'm going to summarise it using this one from Aspasion, who asks me, did I find a job before I moved to Sweden? And the answer to your question is yes, I did. I was really happy with my job in London, so I didn't want to just give it up for anything. I wanted to make sure that the job I got in Sweden was something that felt in a similar vein. So when I made the decision to move to Sweden, I gave myself 6 to 7 months so that I could start job hunting and find the right job for me. I didn't want to just take the first thing that came along. I know it doesn't work for everyone, and for some people your time frames or your requirements requirements mean that maybe you have to come here first and then look for a job, but that was just not something I really wanted to do. And that brings me on to the second part of this question that many of you asked me about what are my top tips for finding a job here in Sweden. And I'm sure I'll do a whole nother video on this at some point, but let me just summarize a couple of things for you now. Firstly, always write your application, so your CV and your cover letter, in exactly the same language as the advert. If the advert's in Swedish, they're probably looking for you to write in Swedish. And that's also a good sign that if it's in Swedish and your Swedish isn't that great, or you're not sure you can work in Swedish, maybe that's not the job to apply for. My second tip is make sure you use websites like Glassdoor to find out what the employer is like and to see other jobs that are similar in the area. If that doesn't exist for your field or in the area that you're looking for, there's not enough data to go on, then you can go to a recruiter and they'll give you a good idea and also give you a lot of support and help with getting the job. I found my job independently, but I know lots of people that went through that route and found it a lot more reassuring to have a local expert on the ground to help them get the application through the door and get seen for an interview. And the other thing to think about is your education and qualifications. Look at how they translate in Sweden. Make sure that you articulate yourself in the right way in the cover letter. For example, I did a human geography degree that doesn't really exist here, so I had to call it something else. I had to explain it a little bit differently so that they understood my qualifications and what I could bring to the table. Just something to bear in mind before your application gets thrown away when it probably shouldn't be. And then my final question today comes from Jane, who asks me, am I planning to stay in Sweden forever? Okay, now that's a big question. If I'm being completely honest with you, forever feels like such a heavy word that I'm not really sure that I'm willing to commit to that right now. But that being said, what I can say is I think Sweden is always going to be a really important part of my life. My girlfriend and her family are here. I'm expecting to have a family that's obviously part Swedish too. So as a result, I'm sure it will be involved in my life in a very, very big way. Even if I'm not living here all the time, I'm sure I'll be back and forth frequently. That being said, I like my life here and I could see myself living here. So never say never. And there you have it, guys. That brings us to the end of part 2 of my honest question and answer. I'm sorry if I didn't get around to your question. I got so many that I've not had the chance to answer yet. But if you enjoy this, drop me a like so I know, and perhaps we can do a part 3 again sometime soon. And if you're not subscribed yet, you're going to want to do that so you are ready when that comes out, as well as all of my other videos. Until we next meet again in another one of my videos, I just want to say thank you for checking out my video. It means a lot, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.